is really nice. You have Rand Paul. Here he is at the Vaccines and Public Health hearing in the Senate. And this is highly problematic. As you know, measles was wiped out in this country some 30 years ago and has returned. And there is particular concerns that it is going to return with a vengeance when we get into spring, which is apparently the season where it has its most ability to spread. There's some theory out there that, after a certain period of time, people forget. There's an institutional or, sort of a generational forgetting of just how horrific measles can be. And here is Rand Paul doing his best to justify the spread of measles.
That parents who refuse to vaccinate their children risk spreading these diseases to the immunocompromised community. There doesn't seem to be enough evidence of this happening to be recorded as a statistic, but it could happen. But if the fear of this is valid, are we to find that next we'll be mandating flu vaccines? Between 12 and 56,000 people die from the flu, or are said to die from the flu in America, and there's estimated to be a few hundred from measles. So I would guess that those who want to mandate measles will be after us on the flu next. Yet the current science only allows for educated guessing when it comes to the flu vaccine. Each year, before that year's flu vaccine or strain is known, the scientists put their best guess into that year's vaccine. Some years it's completely wrong. We vaccinate for the wrong strain of flu vaccine. Yet 5 states already mandate flu vaccines. Is it really appropriate to mandate a vaccine that more often than not vaccinates for the wrong flu strain? As we contemplate forcing parents to choose this or that vaccine, I think it's important to remember that force is not consistent with the American story.
All right, pause it for 1 second. All right, so first off, he starts off in his opening statements here sort of conflating 3 or 4 different principles why we shouldn't have mandatory vaccinations. He conflates the fact that the measles vaccination has a success rate that is far superior, particularly year to year. I don't know what it is, well into the 90s, versus the flu vaccine. He's right. Every year, scientists do not know. They just predict what flu strains are going to be out there. And some years, the flu vaccination is like 50-50, which is still pretty good. Some years it's 70% effective. But the measles vaccination is not.
97%.
97%. But he's conflating these things as if it's a principle, as opposed to a simple assessment that he as a doctor should be aware is made every single day in a doctor's office. Right? Like the potential for you to get a certain type of cancer is a function of how much it's been present in your parents, et cetera, et cetera. Therefore, I, as a doctor, would be more willing to prescribe you getting subject to radiation to assess whether or not you have cancer than if you have no reason for me to believe that you have an elevated risk for cancer. And so I won't subject you to radiation because it doesn't make sense because I'm weighing that out. That's the concept that's at work with vaccinations. And then it becomes a policy because that's the only way that vaccinations work. But let's hear him get to the nub of it. This is where he really needs to deliver this so that his dad's email business thrives.
Important to remember that force is not consistent with the American story, nor is force consistent with the liberty our forefathers sought when they came to America. I don't think you have to have one or the other, though. I'm not here to say don't vaccinate your kids. If this hearing is for persuasion, I'm all for the persuasion. I vaccinated myself. I vaccinated my kids. For myself and my children, I believe that the benefits of vaccines greatly outweigh the risks, but I still do not favor giving up on liberty for a false sense of security. Thank you.
Now, the fact of the matter is that we have multiple examples of our forefathers engaging in mandatory force for health, right? Do you have those examples right there? Oh, they're on the sound sheet? Okay. Yeah. Quarantine legislation, which until 1796 was the responsibility of states, was implemented in port cities threatened by yellow fever from the West Indies. Oh, well, maybe we can just convince people.
What about liberty?
Not to go around with West Indies. This is back in the 1790s. Maybe that's not our forefathers weren't doing that. Of course, they were doing it in the States. Because there's public policy measures that actually prevent people from getting sick. They didn't need convincing with the yellow fever. They just said, this is the way we're going to contain yellow fever. We're going to quarantine people. And that gives you even less liberty, definitionally, right? Are you going to quarantine people who come back with Ebola? I mean, this is just absurd. It is such posturing and it's so stupid the way that he does this. It's literally all about an email business that his dad has that he hopes to inherit.
First the Senate, then Dad's emails. I
Even,
tried to run for president.
even my anarcho-communist utopia will have vaccine requirements, and hopefully people will believe in less nonsense, but we'll see.
In my anarcho-utopia, you sell a newsletter with secret investor advice on gold bars that will also get rid of liver cancer. So to each their own.